My name is Calvin. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Calvin.
I'm presently at Burl's Room Rehab, and I come every week to do a talk on not only my personal growth, but also things to look out for in this program. There's a lot of contradictions in Alcoholics Anonymous. For example, surrender for victory. You get hope from hopelessness. And you find that as you're going along, you learn more and more about this beautiful program. You take this analogy of water. Water travels down towards the lowest of places. And you don't really look at the power that it possesses. It can electrify a whole city. It can destroy a whole city through a form of tsunamis. It can give you life. So when you look at the power that a simple thing like water possesses, we then begin to underestimate ourselves. People say this, that we made in the image of God, and therefore we are born with this innocence, and this innocence lasts throughout our childhood, but eventually we become influenced by the ways of the world. And I tell the kids at school that your body is a temple of God, and if you put unholy substances into your body, then that is ungodly. But because of the influences of our society and the places that we come from, we lose our way. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I came across the word vasana, which is a Hindu word. And on the explanation of this word, the speaker said that if you spend 3 days in a particular place, you get an idea and you get a sense of that place. It's like coming here to Burl's Room. And after 3 days, you get a sense of the spirituality that exists in these rooms. They were talking about traveling to different countries, and they spoke about India in particular. These are the guy's actually is Australian, and he said he couldn't believe what a fantastic place India is. He said a person comes from nowhere and will invite you to supper with his family. You don't know him from a bar of soap. He said that the people in India are so accommodating that he refused to leave that place. He spent months visiting all the famous places, visiting ashrams, and he got a sense of the great spirit that India has. He got a sense of the vasana that exuded from India. It's a beautiful word. That are you Hindu? Have you heard of that word? Yeah. So just through listening, I'm picking up things from these podcasts that I listen to. So you guys have an opportunity. You in a place that is, if you take it seriously, it's a springboard to your future. It's the first day of the rest of your lives of being a sober person. And sobriety doesn't mean staying sober. Sobriety means learning, regaining your dignity, learning about rigorous honesty. It means integrity. It means redeveloping. You're reborn now, and you regain your spirit, and you're going back to the religion that you were brought up in. And you're only going to become a better person if you begin to practice these principles in all your affairs. And I think one of the most difficult things in Alcoholics Anonymous is practicing rigorous honesty, because we're coming from our old dirty ways, our old world of lies. We're coming from a world where we continuously embarrassed ourselves, continuously humiliated ourselves. We bashed our ego over and over again until we came to a point when we said, hey, I've had enough now. Your ego then collapses, and it opens its way for this moment of clarity. That moment of clarity can come in different forms, it can come in different ways. That spiritual people speak about this a moment of self-realization where you might even say it's a spiritual awakening, and you might even believe that it's God that came to you and said, you better stop. You know, when I was much younger, my brother got shot. He used to move around with these characters from World's Road. And one evening when he was with them, an altercation happened between him and another guy, and the guy pulled a gun and just started shooting wildly. Well, I don't know if it's wildly, because one bullet hit him in the head and he died. And I remember how it affected me. I was so deeply affected. I couldn't sleep. I went into a drinking binge that I couldn't get out of. I did stupid things like going to the graveyard where his ashes were buried at all hours of the night and talking to him. And I remember him coming to me, and the dream was so clear, and he was pointing at me and saying, you better stop. I'll never forget that dream. And I knew that was the beginning, because he was planting the seed. I didn't stop drinking straight away, but it wasn't long afterwards that I was able to stop. So there's certain signs that come to you, certain symbolic messages, and that message came to me in a dream. We can't ignore it, because these messages are opening a door into another world, another realm, another place that can take you out of this morass of pain and suffering and indignity, things like divorce and estranged children and your job that you lose. These are the things that we suffer from our actions. There's a powerful book that I read. It's actually a poem called A Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. A Rubaiyat is a poem with 4 lines. It's a 4-line poem is called a quatrain, where the first, second, and last lines rhyme. And there are, I think, over 70 verses. I can't be sure of the exact amount. But one of the verses says, indeed, the wine that I've loved so long has done my credit in men's eye much wrong, has drowned my honor in a shallow cup, and sold my reputation for a song. A verse like that coming back from centuries, which is telling me about the indignity of alcohol, is very, very, very powerful. So I've come across other, as a matric teacher, there's another, I don't know if you've ever heard of Othello, but in Othello there's a character named Michael Cassio, and another character named Iago who says about Michael Cassio that he doesn't have the brains for alcohol, and therefore he's going to use him. And he decides to make Michael Cassio drunk one night, and Cassio gets so drunk that he loses his job. And afterwards, he's so upset with himself because in general he's a very, he's a noble, well-respected, has a great deal of honor. And he says these words, he says that this inordinate cup is unblessed. It's the ingredients of the devil which steals away the brain. From a sensible man to an ass to a raving lunatic, that's what you become. Again, Shakespeare's written centuries ago, and even then they knew about alcohol. You know? So you, as a person, you've had countless messages. You've had countless signs that what you're doing is wrong. And I always say that there's a chain of events that brought you here, and you have to examine those events. How did you get here to this rehab? What brought you? What signs were passed on to you? Did God come to you? Did you have any kind of spiritual awakening? And as long as you've been here, have you learned anything that might help you in the future? I also always say that there's no guarantee you're going to stay sober. Some guys come once, twice, 3 times. Some guys come because they're scared of their wives, they're scared they're going to get fired. And you have other motivations instead of wanting to clean up your act. Sometimes we come in here and because of our experience with meetings and meetings like this, we begin to learn something that can carry us forward. And it's all up to you, because I say to the kids at school, I can't follow you around the school. Your mother and father can't follow you around. If you want to smoke, you can go and smoke. If you want to take drugs, there's nothing I can do. But I'll know when you have taken drugs, and I'll use all my power to deal with you. Okay? So that in short is my message for you today. I just want you to give me